Here's where I have the Webcor Musicale sitting, and once I get it playing, it'll probably sit here for a while until I get a few things in my house rearranged. I hope to get some arrangements done so that I can display the stuff I've collected a little bit better than I'm able to right now. It's sitting here waiting for parts, and the next part of this video will be when I rebuild the amplifier, and hopefully I'll be able to get a stylus for it and rubber grommets for the motor. I'll be looking into all that in the next within the next month. But the next part of this video will be when I'm working on it again on the bench. That's coming up right now. It's April 5th, 2018. When I got up this morning in Little Prairie, Wisconsin, the temperature was only 12 above zero. That's pretty cold for this time of the year. We had some snow over the weekend, and there's still a lot of it around. I don't know if we'll get any more before we actually get a real spring. But here I have the Webcor on the bench again. I got the parts, at least some of the parts I'm going to need to start try to restore this to working condition. Something I noticed, these rubber feet, they're actually in good usable condition. That's very unusual. Usually they're either cracking apart, gone, or hard as a rock. Those are still usable. You don't find stuff as well made as this thing was in 1953. This thing is really well made. So I'm going to take it apart and I'm going to start rebuilding the amplifier. I'm not going to get very far on this thing today, and it's primarily because I forgot about this capacitor here. This is what they call a bumblebee capacitor, but actually it's from one side of the line to ground, and that to me says safety cap. It should be a 0.05 or a 0.047 safety cap suppression. So I don't have any of those. I mean, I don't want to put just a standard 0.047, although I'm not sure if that wouldn't work, but I'm pretty sure that should be a safety cap. Anyways, I do have these electrolytics, and I'm going to replace those today. As long as I have to order a replacement cap for this, I'm going to order all of the capacitors I need from the same place. I have them in stock. I've got them here, but I don't want to just order a couple of capacitors from one supplier. I'll order everything I need for this, and then today I'm just going to start with replacing these electrolytics, and then maybe later I might get into the turntable mechanism itself. But for now, I'm going to work on the electrolytics in the amplifier and then go from that point on. Okay, I got one leg of this mess unsoldered. These are 450 volt electrolytics. They may still be good, but somebody replaced them along the line. The original ones on the schematic, it calls for 250 volt rated electrolytics, which I got, and you can see the ones I've got are quite a bit smaller. And I'm going to find a way to install these 4 capacitors much neater than these were soldered in. Plus here's one end of this supposed safety cap detached. I have to order those. I don't have any. I don't know if this bumblebee capacitor is got any indication on it that it's a safety cap. Maybe it isn't, but anyways, I'll be replacing this with one that actually is. Here are some interesting things that I find concerning the tech that replaced the original electrolytics with these 450 volt ones. Right here, I don't know if my camera is going to show it. Maybe yes, maybe no. Right here is just about a quarter of an inch or less, or 3/16 of a cutoff wire. And I assumed that originally what was in here was a multi-section capacitor that may have somehow been tied in here or bolted or strapped in here somehow, and then it had leads going out to various places, and this little lead here is what's left where he snipped it. So anyways, I've got a scheme in mind how I'm going to put my new capacitors in. We'll see how that works out. I've checked resistors. They all seem to be within tolerance. So I'm going to install the electrolytics. So this is where I'm at with this amplifier. I have the electrolytics installed. The placement of this one I'm not really happy about. I tried different ideas of where I would locate it, but I think where I have it is about the best. I have to make sure that it doesn't vibrate against anything when this record player finally gets to playing. I don't know how much resonance there is in the cabinet. There's 3 speakers in the cabinet, and just want to make sure that these things don't rattle around and vibrate while it's playing. But this is, I think, the best place I could come up with. I installed this little lug here, and to make sure that it is actually grounded, I ran it to the common ground that's over here on that terminal. I ran a wire. Everything else is grounded properly. I checked the grounds to make sure that there's no corrosion and resistance in the ground connections on the socket lugs that are grounded, and they're solid grounds. So I'm going to stop at this point with these 4 electrolytics until I get the other capacitors ordered. It's primarily I need to get, this is a 0.05 to ground off of one side of the line, and although probably an ordinary 0.05 or 0.047 it would work, I'm going to get a safety, what they call a safety cap for that one. I'm not really sure what all the electrical differences are, but anyways, that's what's going to go there. But like I say, I really think just an ordinary capacitor would work just fine. So that's it for the amplifier for now. So I set the amplifier aside. I'm going to work on this turntable, this changer. I've got replacement rubber grommets for the motor mounts. I'm not exactly sure which way they go though. I'm kind of thinking they go with this part facing up. But I'm sure if I put them in and I realize they're wrong, I can reverse them quite easily. So I'm going to start putting these rubber mounts in and see what else this changer, I should call it. I should call it a turntable. Well, it is, but it's an automatic changer as well. Anyways, I'm going to see if I can get this thing rebushed. And I have the 3 rubber mounts on just fine, and everything lines up. When I change the speeds, the idler wheel goes to the right place. I also got a replacement rubber cap for this size indicator, record size indicator, which was missing. There's really not much else to do on this turntable, really. Everything looks fine. I've lubed up the turntable itself, and once I get this thing back together, I'll put the cartridge back in with the new styluses mounted. It's coming along very well.